Hello again. Of course, today, 21st March, is Human Rights Day in the country. Now, on a personal level, what are you doing to create a just society? Well, over at Constitution Hill, they're inviting you this weekend to take part in the 5th edition of the Human Rights Festival. Over 2 days, you will be able to immerse yourself in the challenge set out in this year's theme, Seize the Power, Seize Your Power. The festival is, of course, free, and you can look forward to conversations there, exhibitions, art, film, and live performances. Civil rights activist and project lead Mark Heywood is joining me now in studio just to tell us more about the festival and what it hopes to achieve. Mark, good afternoon. Happy Human Rights Day to you. Thanks for coming through to the studio. It's been quite a long time since we've spoken face to face. We are used now to Zooming and all those kind of things. Before we talk about this upcoming weekend's festival, we are commemorating Human Rights Day today. I mean, you've been a human rights activist for decades. When you look at where we are today, just an overriding question first, how well are we doing? I mean, the Bill of Rights is right there, Chapter 2 of our Constitution.
Well, as you say, our country, our new dispensation, our dreams, our democracy is founded very firmly on human rights, on Chapter 2, on rights to basic education, to healthcare services, to sufficient food and water, to a healthy environment. I mean, you name it, it's there, and it's the pride of the global human rights community. But, you know, it's very disappointing to sit here in 2023 and say not only are we not going forward with certain fundamental rights, but actually we are regressing. You know, the language of the Constitution is that you should progressively realize human rights. Well, we are progressively going backwards, regressing. I'll give you examples. There are millions of people who are hungry, but we have a right to sufficient food. There are children who are suffering malnutrition. There are children who are dying of malnutrition. Our healthcare services are underfunded. They're unable to rise to meet the demand for healthcare. Our basic education system is broken in many respects. People have rights to safety and security, but people live in fear. We talk about women and the fear of women, the plague of femicide that exists in our country. So in every respect, there is a terrible disjuncture between this beautiful and possible, I have to stress, possible vision of the Constitution, which is premised on equality, and the desperate situation that faces millions and millions of South Africans.
Yeah, and the foundation of those principles is around freedom, dignity, and equality, and we're still battling there. Okay, let's talk to you about now what you're going to be busy doing this coming weekend at the Human Rights Festival. Seize the Power, Seize Your Power. What is this all about?
So the theme, Seize the Power, Seize Your Power, goes to what we've just been talking about, which is the Constitution gives us a lot of power. You know, it's not like we're living in China or Zimbabwe, where if we go and protest or if we speak to the media, we end up in prison or we're being listened to or so on. You know, we have power, and it depends upon our power, not somebody else's power. You and me and everybody who's listening and looking to take action and do things so that we can realize these human rights. So the festival is about your power and where to find your power. It aims to educate people about rights.
How is this going to be expressed? If somebody attends, for example, the festival, I understand it is free, there will be exhibitions, there will be art. How will this find expression?
So the festival is at Constitution Hill, which is, of course, a beautiful historical place, all to do with human rights. In the festival, utilizing the old women's jail, utilizing the old fort, utilizing the apron of the Constitutional Court, there are sessions going on all of the time, debates, panel discussions, conversations about different rights. Some of them are skills building sessions, so you can go in if you want to learn about the science of the climate crisis. Some of them are conversations. There's one, for example, called How to Hold Difficult Conversations, because we're trying to say to people, don't just come if you're converted. Come and talk about these things, because we're all people of South Africa. So there's a multiplicity of meetings together with music and poetry and exhibitions and a book fair and a children's human rights festival and so on.
Yeah. So I mean, if you say it's your power,
Yeah.
You are basically encouraging people through this effort, this initiative, Seize the Power, Seize Your Power, Human Rights Festival this coming weekend, to say it's up to you as an individual. You can do something yourself in terms of what the Constitution guarantees you.
Absolutely. We're saying we all have power as individuals and as a collective. You know, I'm an individual, Mark. I have my beliefs about human rights. As an individual, many years ago, I joined the Treatment Action Campaign, as you know, and as a collective, we fought for the right to health care for people living with HIV. We changed government policy and we prevented, or we saved 5 million lives. We all have that power. That's what we're saying.
Yeah, I'm just having a thought here about our young people. I mean, are young people, are you inviting them to participate at this festival?
We have gone, we're working very hard to make the festival centered on young people, not just inviting young people. Young people are our future. And there's a children's program, there's a young people's program. I've been working the last few weeks with organizations, with the National Youth Coalition, to make this not just youth-friendly, but about youth and centered on young people.
Yeah, because sometimes we look at the challenge, we say that, but the young people are not engaged like young people of the past in terms of taking active participation in protecting our democracy.
You know, Dan, it's just not true that young people are not engaged. Young people are engaged, but in their way, engaged in ways that older people like you and me, if you don't mind me saying, just don't understand. We don't understand young people's ways of expressing, modes of expression. But they're certainly not apathetic. They're certainly not disengaged. You know, if I can just give you an example, if you've watched what happened in Mozambique a few days ago, you know, a rapper,
Azagaya,
who I'd never heard of, but was immensely popular. Yeah. Amongst young people.
And he made a lot of anti-corruption music and songs, and the government, when the people went out to the streets, they used tear gas to fire on the people.
Precisely. So the young people are there, and the young people can shape our country for the better.
Okay, now this is going to be happening over the weekend, the festival. Is it the first? Is it the last? Is this going to be an annual? Okay, what are you thinking right now?
This is the fifth festival.
Fifth festival.
It starts on Friday. On Friday is just a day of skills building and meetings of NGOs. Saturday and Sunday are open to everybody, and we encourage everybody to come. As you've already said, it's free. My hope for this is that this becomes a big annual event. My hope is that this is not just an abstract academic conference, but this is part of changing our culture. This is part of rebuilding our democratic, human rights, compassionate, caring, people-centered culture for this country. You can't do it on a Saturday and Sunday, but you can start.
Yeah, and I think you must always do it at Constitution Hill. Let the country come to the symbolic place.
Absolutely.
In terms of our Constitution. Well, we'll wish you well. We'll catch up later, Mark, to see how it all went. Thank you very much for your time. Thanks for coming through. That's Mark Heywood. He's a project lead of this Human Rights Festival, Seize the Power, Seize Your Power. That's going to be taking place this weekend over 3 days at Constitution Hill in the Braamfontein area of